Why am I risking bad luck by opening an umbrella in the house? Because today we're going to talk about when it is and isn't a good idea to have more than one brand, project, or business in the same LLC. Hi, I'm Tiffany Staley, founder of Artist JD, a place designed to add ease to the legalese of running your creative business. Today I'm answering a question from Nicole in Florida. Nicole asks, I have multiple projects. Can they go in the same LLC? So there are times when it's a great idea to have multiple brands or projects or businesses in the same LLC, and there are times when it's not such a great idea. So how do you make that decision? Before we get into the heart of the answer, I want to remind you why we're creating LLCs in the first place. We're creating LLCs to put a fence between your business life and your personal life. So if anything goes wrong in your business, your personal life isn't impacted, and if anything goes wrong in your personal life, your business isn't impacted. So you're creating this fence that puts a separation between the two of them. When you put multiple brands, projects, or businesses in the same LLC, there is no fence between those businesses. The law treats that LLC and all of the brands or projects underneath it like they're one and the same. And so the same 13 questions that I encourage you to go through when you decide if it's time to become an LLC are a great jumping off point to decide if it's okay for multiple brands or projects to be in the same LLC. If you aren't familiar with these 13 questions, I've put a link to the workbook below in the show notes where you can grab this workbook to help you think through if it's a good idea to have that lack of separation between your brands and projects. What are some examples of when it's a good and bad idea? Some examples I've seen that it often makes sense for creative business owners is when they've got, say, a high-end line and a more accessible line. When I'm wearing my hat of Kif the lawyer, I have a lot of jewelry-based businesses who are my clients. And for a lot of these clients, they have a high-end kind of custom and bridal line that they do under their own name. And then they have a much more accessible production style line that they have under a trade name or under a business name. And oftentimes it makes sense for us to put both of those in the same LLC because they're okay with the high-end custom line impacting the production line and vice versa. And so in those cases, oftentimes we put them in the same LLC. An example I've seen of when it doesn't make sense is someone who has their own handmade business. Maybe they have an Etsy shop or a shop on their own website, and then they also teach handmade business owners how to run a successful shop. And there, they might not want that coaching, that teaching, that business to impact their handmade shop. If something goes wrong in their handmade shop, they still want to make sure that that business is protected. If anything goes wrong in their consulting, in their coaching business, they don't want their handmade line to be impacted. And so in those instances, it might make sense to put a fence between the two of them so that one doesn't impact the other. The bottom line is the same questions that we talked about before are going to help us decide, is it going to give me peace of mind to have a fence between the two of these? And if so, then we might need to have them as more than one LLC. If we don't need that peace of mind, then it's totally fine to throw them under the same umbrella and have them in the same exact LLC. If you're thinking of creating an LLC that you're going to house multiple projects or brands underneath, or you've already got an LLC and you need to make sure you're keeping it on the up and up, I've put a link in the show notes as well to a course that I've put together that walks you step by step through how to create your LLC and how to keep it legit once you've got it. So make sure you check that out below. In the next episode of Ask Kif, I'm going to talk about the requirements of an LLC when it comes to finances. How do you keep those bank accounts for your LLC? So if you've already got an LLC, make sure you tune into next week's video. Got a question you want me to cover in an upcoming episode of Ask Kif? Make sure you leave it in the comments below. Before you go, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can get notified each time a new episode drops. And I've put a link to a previous Ask Kif video where I talked about how you can find an attorney for your creative business if you're thinking about having someone create that LLC for you rather than doing it yourself. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.